Hello, and once again, thank you for coming back to hear about the crackhead in my life. Oh boy, I know you guys must be getting a kick out of this. I know you got you a crackhead in your family too, don't you? Well, mine is interesting. That's why I actually had to do a series on this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I used to roast Kwame Brown a lot. It'd take a whole week of stuff before I come up with a video for Kwame. This guy here, I could go on and on. I could make my whole YouTube page about him. And today I got another wonderful, wonderful story for you. Well, where do I start? Let's start where it all began. Hey, big bro, you want to do that? Let's start where it all began. This guy here, he was so much of a pussy, right? My dad's lectures were too much for him. This motherfucker had to bail out the house as soon as he got old enough to go to the army. Because doing his homework and getting a lecture for not doing his homework was just too much for his little, small, feeble mind to take. So this nigga runs off to the army, right? Now, at this time, I'm like, okay, well, maybe he might straighten his life up. You know what I'm saying? I'm just watching him as a little brother. You see what I'm saying? Now, I done seen this nigga fucking up all this time before he went to the army. My dad was an excellent dad. You see what I mean? And my brother, and, well, I have to say my sister, chose not to listen, and neither one of them have college degrees. Neither one of them can name more than one accomplishment on both hands and feet. Okay? I'm not even going to go into my accomplishments because I don't want to make this about me. But anyway, I'm getting my smoke on. We're going to have a nice little time. So go ahead and roll up. I'm taking my time with this one. This is one of those that if you're listening to it now and you haven't eaten your dinner, right? Pause the video. Go get your dinner ready. Get everything set up. Get your drink, your smoke, everything set up. And then I want you to come back and listen. All right? So I'm going to pretend that you guys are just coming back with everything ready. Okay, so now let me get into the story about how everything began, him leaving and going off to the army, right? Now, by the time he went off to the army, I don't think he had started smoking crack. Mm-mm. No, maybe a little coke probably, but I don't think there was any crack involved. Crack came a few years later. So he goes off to the army, right? Meets a nice lady, right? Brings her home, introduces her to my parents and everything, right? As a real, this is the one. This is the one he wants, right? They both get thrown out the army. I know he got thrown out the army, of course, because it's kind of like a job, right? So you know that shit's not going to last. I think he stayed in the army no more than maybe a year after basic training, and they threw his ass out. So anyway, I think she either left or got thrown out. I don't know. I'm not making up stuff. I don't know. Somehow she ended up out the army too around the same time he did. So, make a long story short, they come back to Georgia, right? And of course, he ain't gonna do anything, right? So he's going to strip clubs and things like that, right? Eventually, after a few months of her being here in Atlanta with him, he got the love of his life stripping in downtown Atlanta. Hello? I told you to get your food and everything set so I got something. I'm just getting started. So he's got his bitch now stripping. And you know what? He just thought he was the man. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. He was the man to be able to get the love of his life to be a stripper hoe. You see what I'm talking about? And this is before crack. See what I mean? Well, it might be around the time, but this is probably around the time. I'm skipping ahead to the stripper hoe. So he's got his bitch out here stripping in the streets, bragging about that shit to me all the time, right? Now, me hearing the story as a young teenager, I'm like, wow, that's really cool that he could get a bitch to be that fucking stupid. Wow, your bitch that goddamn stupid? Okay. So anyway, make a long story short, they get in an argument. I think he punched her in the face and broke her face or some shit. Bitch left, right? So then he's like, maybe I should be a pimp, right? I'm thinking that's what his mind must be saying, right? So you know what the fool does? Bragging about it. That's why I know. That's why I know what happened, because he was bragging to me about it. Goes down to the Greyhound station, brags about how he can get an underage white girl and pimp her out. And starts pimping a little underage white girl out here in Atlanta. And this in Georgia back in the day before, this was Georgia before. This wasn't really Atlanta before. This was Georgia. You got some little daughter out there, you trying to be the man, and you were fucking child molester. He probably was fucking her too. You know he was, because how you get her to do it? He's a fucking child molester. You see what I mean? I'm laying up, sleep one morning, boom, 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 boom. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, right? I'm like maybe 13, right? Fucking FBI agents, boom, raiding the fucking house, running through our shit like it's nothing. I didn't even have a chance to get my head up before them niggas was blasting through my fucking bedroom door, all in my shit, looking for anything to find this stupid nigga that got an underage child out there pimping an underage child. That's the kind of mindset that crack will do that shit to you. And anybody that's got somebody in their family, don't trust them motherfuckers around your kids. Because you don't know what they'll do or what they'll say to them. Straight up. So anyway, luckily, I guess my parents, for him, told him that they was looking for him, and he takes the little underage girl that he's molesting down to Miami, Florida. Okay? Make a long story short, that shit didn't pan out. I don't know if they got the girl or they took her back. I never heard the end of that story. Because he had to fucking go. That nigga was wanted. Straight up for transporting a minor over state lines. Straight up. That nigga had the jet. So he jetted out to California. Jetted out to fucking Seattle, I think, for a while. Then he ended up in Minneapolis. I think that's what it was. So really, once he ended up in Minneapolis, the pimping days were, I think, over. No, you know what? Let me tell you what happened with the next lady he met. Then he got this lady pregnant. Okay? This was the lady I believe he moved to Minneapolis with. This was the love of his life again. Right? You know where that bitch is right now? Destitute, smoking crack. She had a nice job and everything. Decent lady, because I met her. She hoeing, smoking crack now because of him. This nigga destroys lives. If you got a crackhead in your life, keep them away from anybody that you care about, because they liars, and the motherfuckers destroy lives because they destroyed their life. So they want everybody to be on their level. Fucked up. You see what I mean? So every time I talk to this nigga, I probably didn't even see that nigga for like 10 or 15 years because he was on the run from the law. But every now and then he used to get a chance to come down to Atlanta, or I talk to him on the phone. And he's this big pimp. He's the pimp that only pimped 2 girls. One of them was underage. But for years and years and years and years. And this shit didn't stop until I had to say something about it. I said something about it maybe 10 years ago. So I've listened to that shit for about 25 years. With him bragging about being a pimp, like that was some shit. And I would just sit there and listen to the same old fucking stories, because it wasn't that much pimping that went on. You see what I mean? So it wasn't that many stories, but I had to listen to the same ones all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, dude, it's not cool to be a pimp, bro. And when I finally told him, yo, don't tell me about that shit anymore, dude. That shit happened like 20 years ago. Now he gets mad at me. Mm-hmm. Don't, if you got a crackhead in your family, then you know they always tell you the same fucking stories about the glory days and shit. I dare you to tell them motherfuckers to shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that shit no more. Mm-hmm. Cause that's what I did. Y'all know me. I told him one day, I said, man, I'm tired of hearing that bullshit you talking about, bro. They don't even have pimps anymore. You know what I'm saying? This month, anybody, what was that movie? I'm gonna get you, sucker. Where the pimp got out of jail, right? And he thought he was still cool, and he had the fish tanks in his shoes and shit. That's my brother. Except he wasn't out of jail. I mean, he wasn't in jail. He was out of jail and didn't realize that time was passing by. And just like I said in my last video, that crack, when it gets in your brain and hardens and calcifies on there, you just stay at that same fucking point. Like my brother's still at the same point. He's still going to buy $10 worth of crack today. Instead of just taking his money, saving it up, and getting like, $60 worth. So you don't have to go back all the time. Like me, for instance, right? I smoke weed, right? I don't smoke that much weed, but I keep weed with me. So let's just say if I get $20, that's gonna last me 4 or 5 days. This motherfucker here, every fucking day, y'all. And that's why we fell out really, because that motherfucker used to call me on his crack runs, and I'm like, he called me on his crack run, right? And then talk about how he used to be a pimp. And I just got tired of that shit, man. Like, nigga. And then think about it, he's walking around. Think about it, put this picture in your head now. He's a pimp 15 years ago, right? In 2010, this motherfucker's still walking around talking about he's a pimp and got a fucking Jerry curl. Okay? This motherfucker still looking fly. You know what I'm saying? So I say, man, I don't know. And the thing about it is, like, I'm breaking this up because I can go on and on. I'm not sure. I said I was going to do like a week series of this, but I'm going to take one thing at a time. Break it down, break it down, break it down. You see what I mean? I don't want to ramble on. I want to chop it up. You see what I mean? And then you can get a good, clear picture of what to look out for. If you don't have a crackhead in your family, or if you're suspecting you might have a crackhead in your family, one of these videos is gonna touch you. It might not be exactly the same thing, but it's gonna be about the same thing. You'd be like, you know what? That's the same thing that Earl be doing. Mm-hmm. Because I'm gonna hit on something, and you're gonna be like, okay. Now that makes sense. That motherfucker's on crack. That's all that is. Do you see what I'm saying? And trying to get them off of it, it's not gonna happen. Don't try and talk to them about it. Don't try and if you're a YouTube content creator, do what I'm doing. Expose them for the fucked up person they are. Hey, hey, big bro. I'm Ramo Retrack, the baddest man on YouTube, and I'm on your ass, boy.